All right, we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Bear Sheath Farm with your host, Levi Kahn. Getting all situated. Go ahead and get this. Okay, got that done. Back here. Anyway. There we go. All right. I think I have everything taken care of. Okay. I originally meant to do this live stream last night, and it's my fault. I take the responsibility. I went onto someone else's live stream, got too caught up in discussing issues intensely. It is a good channel, even though I'm not in full agreement. You might want to check them out. They do have some rules, some order, some and they have some method. They're Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox Christians. His name is Daniel, is the owner. Again, they're not as high up and advanced as we are, but hey, it's a start. But anyway, what I was going to talk on and is Colossians chapter 2, because sadly, and this is a great time to talk about it. Shabbat shalom to everyone. Sabbath blessings. Talking about this, folks, sadly, a lot of Christians misinterpret Colossians chapter 2. Now, I don't think they mean to. It's not their intent. But then when you try to give them the real history and even back it up with a source, they'll get, a lot of them anyway, will get very defensive. Maybe some of them will listen and take it to heart and pray on it and advance from there. But that being said, a lot of them will not. They're comfortable in their lukewarm water. They're stagnant. It's hard to make change. Now, when you have to do verb action and work, it's not comfortable for any of us. I'm no exception. I don't like it either in the beginning. Now, when I say this, when you have to work and do those things, you're not working for your salvation. That is impossible to earn. If you're going to advance and be in Elohim's will and continue to grow and get off the milk and get to the meat, well, that's just kind of how it goes. We were never promised a bed of roses here in this life. This is not our homes. It's not our home here anyway.
Bed of roses without thorns, amen.
Yeah, without thorns. But that being said, folks, let's get to it now. As you know, some of you may know, I have some cataracts going on. So I can use my Messianic Bible, not ISR, if I so choose. If you want me to, let me know. Hey, Shabbat Shalom to the Just 1430.
Oh, hey, Just.
But when I do that, and I can do that because it's 14 font size. Now, right now, I'm going to use my 18 font, super giant print. It's a King James. I love the King James. I'm not a King James onlyist, just so you know. But let's go to Colossians chapter 2, and I will be backing this up, folks. Okay? There's just really no way around it. You know how Anthony Fauci, the doctor, you're not arguing with me, you're arguing with the science. Well, okay, that's kind of a bad joke. But you really are arguing with the history more than anything if you want to argue with me on this. I was on a guy's panel a couple years back, and he disagreed with me on Colossians chapter 2. It can only mean simply in English, Saturday. That's it. And he, I think I might disagree with you there. And I'm like, well, it's not even me you're disagreeing with. And I was going to show him a source, which I will show you people today. He started arguing, constantly interrupting, and I just quit. I was on his panel. All he'll do is cowardly bounce you off and then do a video on, and with his sheeple followers. And, it would have been, hey, look how I really refuted and embarrassed Levi Kahn. Well, it's not. In a real fair debate and apologetics, you could never do that. So I didn't pursue it any further. But I'm not doing it just to argue, folks. I'm doing it because I want truth and I want to give it out to other people. That's why I'm doing the other subjects that I've been doing lately. But without further ado, let's start with Colossians chapter 2. All right. Paul's letter to the church of Colossae, even though he never got to see him, he more than likely was in prison or jail in Rome. There's a couple theories on that, but either way, he was behind bars. All right. Verse 1, for I would that you knew what great conflict I have for you and for them at Laodicea, and for as many as have not seen my face in the flesh, that their hearts might be comforted, being knit together in love, and unto all riches of the full assurance of understanding, to the acknowledgement of the mystery of God and of the Father and of Christ, in whom are hid all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. And this I say, lest any man should beguile you with enticing words. Careful of that. We have a lot of phony baloney Christians out there that are enticing people, and they're making millions to possibly billions. All right. Verse 5, for though I be absent in the flesh, yet am I with you in the spirit, joying and beholding your order and the steadfastness of your faith in Christ. As ye have therefore received Christ Jesus the Lord, so walk ye in him, rooted and built up in him, established in the faith as ye have been taught, abounding therein with thanksgiving. Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ. Let me explain this a little bit. It's okay to get to certain types of philosophy, but when you start adding into the pagan entities and the traditions, we have a problem here. Go back to Exodus with the Israelites when Moses didn't come down as soon as they thought he should have, and Aaron, his older brother, gave in to that too with the golden calf. Two great examples. One would be my Jewish counterparts with the Talmuds and other rabbinical writings. And also today, excuse me, a lot of the systematic theology, and I have studied it in the past. You can use it for the good and use it honestly, but there's a lot of manipulation going through that. All right. Verse 9, for in him dwelleth all the fullness of the Godhead bodily, and ye are complete in him, which is the head of all principality and power, in whom also ye are circumcised with the circumcision made without hands, and putting off the body of the sins of the flesh by the circumcision of Christ. Okay, before I continue to verse 12, that's all in the Torah too. Be circumcised in your hearts. Okay, it's really nothing. It was nothing new by Paul by the time Paul's day was around. Just a lot of people don't know that either because they don't read their Old Testament, their Tanakh. So but it's always been about the heart, and it's also in the Tanakh where God would much rather have their love and loyalty more so than sacrifices. All right, verse 12. Buried with him in baptism, wherein also ye are risen with him through the faith of the operation of God, who hath raised him from the dead. And you being dead in your sins, in the uncircumcision of your flesh, hath he quickened together with him, having forgiven you all trespasses, blotting out the handwriting of ordinances that was against us, which was contrary to us, and took it out of the way, nailing it to his cross. Okay, let's get into that. Does that mean everything's done away with? No, the commandments are not done in Exodus 20 and Deuteronomy chapter 5. The instructions are not done. Now, if you're talking the the cleaning rituals and that, and the and purification rituals, that's done. Okay. In fact, even on a pragmatic level, as a homesteader, I can't go and sit out for 7 days and wash up, every 3 days and do all that. Okay. We're not in that position. And just so you know that. And, we have showers and bathtubs. And and we're in a different part of I'm in a different part of the world. I'm in the United States. Hey, Gray. Welcome to Gray Cloudy Day. So anyway, I'm not sure how to fully answer that. Then I can get totally clean. Okay, I don't have to do 7 days to do it. Keep in mind, back then, they were doing a lot of cleaning rituals and stuff that, the Israelites themselves, I suspect, did not even understand. But surrounding nations at times were irrigating themselves out of existence too. And they did, again, they had some kind of a soap, but they didn't have like the soaps we have. They didn't have, again, showers and the kind of, things that you may need to use sometimes to kill germs, like bleach and whatever. Don't put that on yourself, by the way.
No.
I'm just making a point. And as far as the ordinances and that, let's get into that. Now, in Hebrew, you call it kirioth, and that's what it happened. Kirioth simply in English means divorce. And you go to the book of Jeremiah in English, God divorced the 10 northern tribes. He did not, though he was always telling him to come back to him. That's what those prophets were for. That being said, folks, he did not divorce the Judahites and the Benjamites. They needed to be brought back. And as far as nailing it to the cross, that's like the remarriage, folks. And what did you need for that? Well, you needed a sinless, blameless sacrifice. All the animal sacrifices did was cover up the sin and keep things temporarily on an ephemeral level. So when you look at this, Yeshua canceled the whole thing. And it's up to each individual, whether it's me as a Jew, you as a non-Jew, because they were always welcome into the tribes too, if they had a mind for God and went through their probation era. And that's outside of the canon, okay? But to give you an idea of consequences, good or bad, for both the strangers, sojourners, and that, as compared to the 12 tribes, go to Numbers 15. It's all in there. Verses 14 through 16, verse 26, and verses 29 and 30. You'll see it. So that being said, folks, also too, and I didn't get this point across in Burning Bush's channel. I should have, and I just, when a lot of people are talking and going back and forth, the spring feasts were fulfilled with Yeshua being sacrificed, taking on sin for us, becoming sin for us. That's in Corinthians. And also, when he did this, the Father raised him from the dead, as I just read. And that's in more than one place in the Brit Hadashah too, just so you know. And then when he fulfilled and that, and people saw him, and then he went up to go sit at the right hand of the Father. And I do believe that literally. Okay. We are now in the fall feasts. Look them up. It's easy enough. You want to get a good idea, at least of three main ones, go to Leviticus chapter 23. But let's continue on to verse 15 of Colossians chapter 2. And having spoiled principalities and powers, he made a show of them openly, triumphing over them in it. Okay. So again, verse 14 especially, he's not blotting out the instructions, folks. We have a lot of chaos and pandemonium going on. And God has taken his hand off of our country, not totally yet, but it's at a further distance, and other parts of the world, because Christians are so disobedient. No, why would I say it specifically like that? Or Bible believers. I mean, I've seen a lot of disobedient people when I've been in congregations or Messianic synagogues and whatever. Why would I, because Peter's quite clear about it too. He's going to judge us first. Church, congregation, assembly, call it what you will. I'm not a sacred or a stickler namer. I don't care. The Hebrew's great. I know a lot of it, but it's not necessary for salvation. Anyway, but let's get to verse 16, and this is where the Christians really go loopy. And it's not, maybe if you're one of them watching this live or pre-recorded by the time I'm done, you'll know better after this. Verse 16, let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink or in respect of an holy day or of the new moon, renewing of the moon really, or of the Sabbath days. That only means the Shabbat, Saturday, period, point blank. Now, why do I say that? History. And I'm not just talking about Constantine. I'll get into that and I'll back it up. When you look at the history, for starters, Paul had to go. I think it's been caved in since then with earthquakes and whatever, where the Church of Colossae was at that time. It was a long ways away from Jerusalem, and Paul made that trip. Or no, he sent the letter to get there through his people while he was in jail. But that being said, folks, what they had, they were not even Bible believers, or shall we just say Torah believers. It's not like they had Bibles running around then, but they had, those people knew nothing of it. They had other gods and goddesses. Exempli Gracia would be Diana, the goddess Diana. Remember in Acts when they were causing a riot over that? If you've read it, I'm sure most of you have. And they ate whatever they wanted. Now, according to Leviticus chapter 11 / Deuteronomy chapter 14, those are the instructions of what we are permitted to eat and what we are not. These people knew nothing of that, and they had to learn. They knew nothing of a Sabbath. That was totally foreign to them. So they had to learn that. And so to see these other pagans, when these people quit being pagans, but they still had other people that were pagans around them, it looked a little strange to them, to say the least. Okay, hey, they're keeping some kind of Sabbath. What we here in America just say Saturday. They were keeping dietary instructions, which they never did that before. Not those people. So it's just when Christians try to say, oh, we can eat pork and on, and shrimp and stork, and no, you're not supposed to do that. That, we're supposed to be a set apart, a kadosh, or a holy people, folks. And it really is in overall the long run. See, one of the many thousands of videos that I deleted was I gave the cons mainly on eating pork. Does it have some nutrients in it and that? And, certain types of nutrition? Sure it does. But, go ahead and eat skunk then, because that has some nutrition in it too, right? Well, don't do it. That being said too, hold on a second. Okay. Now, that being said, folks, let's get into this more. I'll read it again, verse 16, and I'll continue down. Let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink or in respect of an holy day or of the new moon or of the Sabbath days. Deb and I eat our salads from our property right on the ground.
Yeah, amen.
I don't
we wash them. Deb
washes them. She washes it up. I'm not going to the store for that stuff with the crap that's going on now. I just don't trust it. They don't even have to put all the ingredients and the pesticides on there anyway. There's a lot of stuff in there we obviously don't know about. Now, and I don't care what anybody thinks. They can call me a Mongol. They can call me a barbarian. When I have my salads now with my blue cheese or whatever, it comes right from our ground. Anyway, verse 17 is very key. Which are a shadow of things to come, but the body is of Christ, the Mashiach. Okay? Go to Isaiah 56, Yeshayahu. Especially, there's a lot more than that, but verses 1 through 6. We're going to be keeping the Sabbath. We will be required again one day. So get used to it. Okay, deal with it. Now, we are doing a shadow. We try to do the best we can do to please Elohim, because he gave us a gift that we cannot earn. The least we could do is show some gratitude. And again, we're doing the shadow right now. We try to anyway. Okay, we don't always succeed. I screw up sometimes. All right, continuing on. Verse 18, let no man beguile you of your reward in a voluntary humility and worshiping of angels, intruding into those things which he hath not seen, vainly puffed up his fleshly mind. Okay, it wasn't just Diana. I'd have to look it all up again. Frankly, I'm a little rusty. But they had more than Diana, too, as a false goddess. And they had so much that they had so much bogus going on. Okay, we're not supposed to be doing this, worshiping angels. Apostle John started to do it not unknowingly, and the malach, the angel, told him to stop. Don't do it, according to Revelation. Okay. All right.
Good. You gave him a mod. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Him or her. I don't know.
Yeah.
Is it a man or are you a man or a woman? I'm no offense, just. Anyway, I made them not standard, but they one up above the managing moderator, him or her. Anyway, verse 19, and not holding the head, from which all the body by joints and bands, having nourishment ministered and knit together, increaseth with the increase of God. Wherefore, if you be dead with Christ from the rudiments of the world, a man, okay, thank you for informing me. Wherefore, if you be dead with Christ from the rudiments of the world, why, as though living in the world, are ye subject to ordinances? Touch not, taste not, handle not, which all are to perish with the using after the commandments and doctrines of men. Man gets himself in trouble. I've been one of them. Got myself in a lot of trouble in the past. All right. God's instructions are right there. We may have to think about it and pray about it and do it at Deuteronomy 17 and decide what we can and cannot do at times. Again, we're not in the land. We're not in those times, but that being said,
Welcome to all 5 viewers. Blessings. And by the way, if you'd like to be led to support this channel, the PayPal link is in the chat. And thank you for joining us, and Shabbat Shalom to all of you.
Okay. Yes. Verse 23, which things have indeed a shew of wisdom in will worship and humility and neglecting of the body, not in any honor to the satisfying of the flesh. All right. Now, I've given a very generalized, basic POV here of what's going on. I'm not going to get real overly profound here. There's no reason for it today. But so if you're doing things, I mean, be honestly, you know, and we probably do look strange to even the people who are not living for Christ in any way, shape, or form. But, you know, in my personal experience, folks, I've gotten the most grief, and so has my wife, from so-called Bible believers, Christians who think you just throw all this out the window. Well, you can. God will give you that choice. Don't get me wrong. Back when I used to be a Christian, I used to, you know, I think I was in salvation but then, and I knew this stuff on an intellectual level, but I think spiritually, you know, spiritual maturity, there's just stuff I didn't get. The Sabbath, the pork. I used to really like my pork. I was more accepting of people's false gods back then. I've gotten a lot more hardcore and militant. I started going back to my Hebraic history, my heritage, 13 years ago. And I started to learn about it out of all people through Michael Rood. Prepare for a rude awakening. Okay. I know there's a lot of controversy on him, but look, on a teaching level, on all his old series and stuff that you can still look up, I do recommend them. You can look that stuff up and learn an awful lot. I was doing some Christian research with Google on that, and also YouTube at the time, 13 years ago, and I saw a couple different times, you know, on the side YouTube, as I'm watching one thing, you know, this crazy looking guy in a small square, and something made me turn it on. I think it was the Spirit leading me, and I got hooked right then. Now, I took almost a year after that when it really got emphasized to me in the Spirit. The Ruach moved me to start living more for him, to be more of an example. I took 10 and a half months to wean off of pork. So that I've been doing for a little over 12 years. No pork, no shrimp. I used to really like my unbreaded shrimp too back in the day. I ate squirrel and so on.
Raccoon, possum.
I think I've had that a little bit. That's been many years. That's been 30 years for me. But I mean, the pork has been, that's the most recent 12 plus years. And even though I took almost a year to get off of it, I still craved it for the next 5-6 months. I remember a couple of different times calling up my back then Messianic congregational leader. And I'm like, dude, I want pork so badly. And he talked me through it. Good old-fashioned therapy. You know, he was understanding because he used to eat it too. A long time. He got off it before I ever did. But that being said, folks, he was a good counselor to me. I miss him. I wish I still had his number. Now, let's look into the history of the Sabbath. Why Colossians chapter 2 can only mean Saturday. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, and the Shabbat. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the Shabbat. Let's look up a little history here.
Even if a child was to look at a calendar, the first day you see is Sunday, the last is Saturday. That's 7 days.
Okay. Hey, how you doing there? You're in big trouble.
Oh.
Glad you made it. Hope you thumb it up. Now, that being said, folks, when I look at this, Constantine, and I'll type him in, he made a mandate. Now, the universal calendar we have currently is the Gregorian calendar that was made up, and then Pope Gregory, was it the 8th? In 1582, adopted it in. Okay, take that 1582 Gregorian calendar back. Constantine mandated Sunday Sabbath, March 7th, 321 AD, and you think to yourself, well, that was, 1,705 years ago? Am I right on the math, I think? And that is a long time. But that time means nothing to God, to Elohim. Okay, he doesn't even look at time the same way we do in our tiny little finite minds, for one thing. Secondly, it's man changing it. Man changing times and laws. You can go back to Daniel, and that's another foreshadow, just so you know. Foreshadow of a bad thing. Well, how could this not apply? How come only Saturday applies to Colossians chapter 2? I'm going to read this. Nelson's Comfort Print Bible Handbook. Now, the one I have, this may not be a first-hand source, but they're getting it from sources older than themselves. And it is, for our lifetimes, fairly old. Let me look. I think, is it 93? 33 years ago? Well, okay, 93 and then revised again in 1995. 31 years ago. And I'm going to go to page I believe 278. Yep. Now this is page 278 on this 1995 edition. Yeah. I'll talk to you later. I can't take you up on a YouTube because they don't let us. And I don't, frankly, I haven't put any money into a live stream or, like StreamYard or whatever. Try to get a hold of him or her, Rainbow. I don't know who Rainbow is. Welcome, Rainbow. Unless it was somebody else with a different account name that I knew from somewhere else. Anyway, sticking to the subject, though, page 270 of this. And I'll just read it to you. I don't expect you to. Okay, we'll start on the top. Well, almost the top. I'm going to start with historical settings right here. False teaching had taken root in Colossae. This teaching combined Jewish observances, chapter 2, verse 16, in parentheses, and pagan speculation, chapter 2, verse 8. It is possible that this resulted from an early form of Gnosticism. This teaching pretended to add or to improve upon the gospel that, indirectly at least, had come from Paul. Okay, I have to go above that. Let's go. I'm going to start on page 277 here with authorship and date. I meant to read that first. My bad. Colossians was written by Paul and Timothy, evidently, chapter 1, verse 1, to a Christian community which he had not visited. Paul had established a resident ministry in Ephesus, 100 miles west of Colossae. For more than 2 years, the influence of his ministry reached all who dwelt in Asia, chapter 19, verse 10 of Acts. Excuse me. Epaphras must have heard Paul in Ephesus and then carried the gospel to Colossae. Here's the key. Listen closely. And it's not rocket science. Just pay attention. Paul wrote the epistle from prison, but he did not indicate where he was in prison. Caesarea and Ephesus have been suggested, but the most probable place is Rome, which I mentioned earlier, which comes from Acts chapter 28, verse 30. This would date the epistle in the late 50s or early 60s. Well, let's go a little further. Let's take it to the early 60s.
Yeah, I'm confused.
Don't be.
A true prophet.
I don't know what that means. Okay, 321 minus. Let's go up to 63 AD. Let's take it as far as we can. Get out of there. Too many other notifications. It gets in my way. Equals 258. 321 AD from when Constantine did this minus 63 equals 258. Now, why am I putting that in there, you ask? It's just simple math. When Paul's letter went to the church of Colossae, Constantine wasn't even around. Okay? He wasn't around. He wasn't even born. I doubt his grandmother was around. Not that that matters. My point to you is he couldn't have made that mandate to make it applicable to Colossians chapter 2, verse 16. Paul could have only meant simply put in Saturday, Sabbath, Shabbat. My Jewish counterpart, some of them call it Shabbos. That's my point to you, folks. There's no way. It can't be Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. By all means, worship Yah, the Father, through Yeshua, the Mashiach, his only begotten / unique son. By all means, do your things every day, but a specific special day that was made for us, for man, not the other way around. And it is a law, it is an instruction forever, period. I could get into more Hebrew. So there is no way it can be anything that Constantine had to do with in Colossians. He didn't exist yet. That being said, folks, Deb, maybe you want to make personal notes and I can look up that stuff later, but I'm going to concentrate on this for now. Okay. What Rainbow is putting in. I'm not going to focus, no offense to Rainbow, but I got to keep going here. And I don't want to have to get distracted. If it's good stuff, well, I mean, I already know the scriptures he or she is putting in, but sticking to the subject. And this is part of the disobedience. Look, I think there are a lot of well-meaning Bible believers. I do. I was one of them. I was a Christian at one time before I advanced, before Elohim saw fit for me to advance. He never gave me too much at once, right? That being said, folks, he never. Yeah, it's right there. Okay. 1 Corinthians chapter 10. For whatever reason, even though I knew it on an intellectual level, I wasn't spiritually mature enough yet. And I did the Sunday thing. I ate a lot of things that, you're really not supposed to, because it didn't register to me. The Spirit, I will say that I think the Spirit was kind of making me aware, and I'll explain that in a minute. But when you go to 1 Corinthians 10, verse 13, there hath no temptation taken you, but such as is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that ye may be able to bear it. When I started learning this stuff 13 years ago and started really checking into it, like I said, I took 10 and a half months to wean off of pork. I did the Shabbat thing, with that first congregation, Messianic congregation. I did,
oh boy,
and I still did the Sunday thing. This was in Akron, Ohio, of all places at the time. I've been around the world actually quite a bit. But my point to you is I was never given anything more than I could bear. And evidently, for whatever reasons, I was not spiritually mature enough to take that in. Say, for example, 30-something years ago. Back 30-something years ago, folks, there was a little while up in Duluth, Minnesota. No. When I needed to do this, I actually rented for a couple of years at a parsonage. And it was the Haven Evangelical Church. Evidently they're not around anymore. I don't know for sure. Some other people, long after I left, they went to another church. Things happened. But I do remember asking my back then pastor about things. And I told them, I would, hey, I don't see anywhere in the Bible where it's really a requirement for Sunday, or why is the day switched? Because I didn't know the history that well. That part of history very well back then. Why are we eating this stuff? And he didn't really have answers all of the time. A lot of times he didn't. The one thing I will say about the pastor is he didn't pretend to, though, either. Okay, he didn't try to work around me. You just keep looking into that. Whereas I've got other Christians would try to argue with me about it or try to set me straight. And I'm like, well, look, I'll read this book you're giving me to use and that. Of course, then that got old too. I read voraciously, don't get me wrong, but there were sometimes too, well, why don't you read this book then? Oh, no, I don't have time. Oh, I fully understand. I know where you're coming from. Here's your book back. Because I don't have time to read yours then either. I went through a lot of stuff back then. And even went through a rebellious period for a while. I'm not going to get into all that. What I will say is that what I will tell you is that it just slowly over time, and I started getting more into the Sabbath. Things came to me, bits and pieces at a time. And because some people will probably say, hey, during that 10 and a half months that I still ate pork and slowed it down, kept consuming less of it until I finally stopped. Because I was going to take a year to do it. And I did it. I completely cut it off a month and a half early. you know, I think people would have gotten on me for that too back then. Now I've got long enough. Evidently, time heals all wounds, they say. Not sure I believe that, but I can honestly go up to you people now and yeah, I've been doing this for 13 years and I haven't broken that law or instruction for 12 years. And, you know, I mean, it doesn't seem to bother people. So that being said, folks, to give you a short explanation to that. And, you know, do I think there's really a lot of difference in some of the foods I eat? Probably not. There's a big controversy between pork and chicken. We still eat chicken here. There's a few more minerals and stuff in chickens. It's a little bit better for you, but as far as the way they live, they're so nasty in that people have a point. Maybe you should give up chicken. I don't feel led to do that. I like my chicken. You know, and it's not in there. That's where we have to do Deuteronomy chapter 17. So that being said,
Sally Day says I don't apologize for eating.
Yeah, that's fine. That's up to him. He's my little bro, but he's a big boy. So that being said, I don't. Maybe there will come a day when the Spirit will convict me. Stop eating chicken and turkey and quail and guinea. Maybe. I don't know. I'll tell you what, though, you little dweebs, elite people who want to try and get me to stop eating red meat. Not going to happen. We're keeping a close eye on Lone Star ticks. You evil little reprobates. I like my red meat. I like my steaks to an extent anyway. So that being said, folks, I guess I just wanted, I have read to you one source about how there's no way Paul could have meant anything but simply in our terminology, Saturday, the Sabbath, no other day. I'll find one more. I'll get you one more. Yeah. Let's see. Now I went to 63 AD, right? Yeah. That's 258 years before Constantine deemed it as a law. And when he deemed it as Sunday law, March 7th, 321 AD, simply in English too, that's Sunday, just so you know. I might grab me my magnifying glass, will you? Thank you. Now I've got here the Restoration Study Bible.
So you'll have those regular glasses.
Yeah, I know. It's in Hebraic offshoot of the King James. Okay, I'll show it to you quick. This is their most recent edition. It's a cheaper made one, but the one that I had that's in storage, is more of a leather cover, and that's the third edition, and it's really good. I read it. I read all of that third edition with their permission. Restoration Ministries gave me permission to do that. That was years ago now, and the videos are deleted. But this is the fourth edition of the Restoration Study Bible. And I'll read it to you. Composition date. Colossians was compiled between 60 Common Era and 61 Common Era. Okay. Well, going back to that, if you want to go by that, well, then that's 260 years to 261 years before Constantine mandated Sunday. And when he mandated it, there was no shops to be closed, nothing to be done on Sundays. Don't get caught doing anything Hebraic or Jewish, or you were to be killed practically. It wasn't good. People died over that if they got caught. So how good was Constantine supposedly giving protection to Christians? Frankly, I think he sucked at it. So I've given you two sources. And I could give you more. Look, I can argue with people all day. I can get older sources that are closer to firsthand, probably some firsthand sources. And these people are still going to argue and want to do their Sunday thing. again, if you want to get together and pray and do some things and fellowship with each other on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, whatever, I'm cool with that. But it's not the Sabbath. It's just not. And for those who try to use Hebrews chapters 3 and 4, say, yeah, my Sabbath is every day. Yeah, well, then you must be one rich million or even billionaire that you can afford not to do all these, because on Sabbath there's requirements with work and stuff like that. And you must, and I don't think that's the case. They're misinterpreting that. I could probably get in as well as Colossians 2. We can go to Hebrews chapters 3 and 4, and I know how they're doing it. I used to do it. I did it unknowingly, folks. I just didn't know any better on a spiritual level. So anyway, I think I'm pretty much done with that stuff. What I can tell you for future updates, I'm going to keep up on the other subjects of what is going on around our country, around the world for that matter. I'm not going to get into it too much here. I'm guessing some airborne troops are being put into Iran now. Trump is going to have to go back on his word, never send any troops there. Well, President Bush said everything was done too, and then they kept going and going and going with that forever, what they call a forever war. And
what'd that do? Last 15 years?
I'd have to look at the exact date. Believe it or not, it was Obama that finally pulled them all out.
Yeah.
Obama-Biden administration. But, where you got other ticks besides just the Lone Star, you've got new laws that are coming down on guns, and they're not regarding the Constitution. And you need to be aware. They're making things tough for people to grow their own stuff and outlawing things, depending on what city and state. They're putting the AI data centers and kicking people off of their land.
And not letting them go by the 10th
Amendment. Okay, stop. And they're not when they're running around, like say even the people that can stay on their land, but they're real close to those data centers that are wrecking the water, that are giving them high electricity bills. Larry Fink evidently wants to take people's pensions, certain percentages out of their retirement plans and all that, and have us pay for it. I will do my utmost to get that done, to let you people in on it so you can prepare for it. Physically, mentally, and most of all, spiritually, and do what Elohim wants you to do. Okay, as an individual, in whatever circumstance you're in. I mean, we're 15 miles out away from the closest town. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't want, but don't think we're far enough out yet either. I mean, I hope, I pray that people, that they don't try to fill this place up with some ridiculous data center. I think I know in general how I'm going to deal with it if they try to kick me off the land. You probably won't hear from me again. Yeah. So, unless if God makes another way for Deb and I to get out somewhere and go where we need to go. But look, I'm just trying to inform you. I can give you suggestions in general. I've done that already. Go back to my live streams. There's that one place where the people got, the citizens didn't want the city council to vote an AI data center in, and they did it anyway. 4 incumbents were kicked out. I think they're still in finishing up their term, but 4 new people are going to be city councilors there, and they're going to give the mayor, the old boy, a hard time too because he voted it in. They're going against them. They're supposed to be the representatives, I mean, I'll give you information on all of that. I'd like to kick back a little bit more and do, have some more kick. I'm doing that basically now, but as far as getting real intense into all that information, I'm not doing it now. I'm just going to go ahead and end the live stream. Wish you, tell you all to stay safe in Yeshua, prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Stay safe in Yeshua, depend on Elohim, and be grateful that we have this gift that we don't deserve. All right, peace, shalom, Shabbat, shalom. The Levite man is out of here. Stay cool.